everyone. Welcome to today's LinkedIn Live session on how Agentic AI is reshaping enterprise transformation. I'm really excited about this discussion today because Agentic AI is, of course, a very hot topic, quickly becoming one of the most transformational shifts that we're seeing across industries. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the rise of Agentic AI, of course, what that means for human AI collaboration, governance and scalability, and why we really need to be thinking about this topic right now. So today with me, I've got a few folks here that I want to introduce. So I'll take a second and introduce two of our analysts. So today we have Senior Analyst Himanshu Matra, and we also have Research Director Kasturi Jagadisan. So thank you both for joining us. And also joining us today, we have a special guest. So Neeraj Kumar, who is CTO at Onix and a Forbes Technology Council member. Neeraj brings nearly 2 decades of IT leadership and innovation to today's conversation. He's a co-founder of Data Medica Solutions. He specializes in cloud, big data, enterprise security, and also specializes in driving transformation through data-driven strategies that really power Fortune 500 success. And so, so today Neeraj will be sharing with us his insights about Agentic AI. So thank you so much, Neeraj. I'd like to welcome you to introduce yourself, if you would like, to our audience.
Thank you, Jillian, and thanks for inviting me here. I think you already have given the introduction. We have done fantastic job in terms of modernizing, the data platforms to the scalable platform as a company like Onix, uh, starting with big data, then now cloud, and now AI came in, agentic AI. So you'll hear more here in this session, and I'll be happy to share my experience, which we have learned by doing, a lot of implementations, seen a lot of problems, and happy to share those experience. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So before we dive into our conversation, perhaps we should set a little bit of the context for today's conversation, maybe just with a quick overview and Everest Group's perspective on why Agentic AI really represents such a pivotal evolution in enterprise technology. So you know that for the past decade, we've been focused on automation and this kind of building of rules-based systems that do basically what we tell them to, and it's very step-by-step fashion. But now, of course, we're moving into something that we can acknowledge is a lot more powerful than that, Agentic AI. And so these systems, of course, are trying to do much more than just follow instructions. Their goal is to actually understand intent, to plan steps, to take action, really in this goal-oriented fashion, and of course then learning from those outcomes. And that's, I think, really what we mean when we say there's a shift going on from automation to autonomy. And this leap is being driven by advances in areas such as reasoning models, orchestration frameworks, and all of that is making AI far more adaptive, proactive than what's come before. So of course, as we look to that, one of the biggest opportunities of Agentic AI is in augmenting the work that people do. Agentic opens up the potential for new kinds of collaboration between humans and machines. So again, one of the common situations or use cases is that you can imagine having a digital teammate, right, that can summarize meetings, but not just that, that can also trigger what is the next step or anticipate what's needed next. So going beyond, what we might consider AI to do today. But then, of course, with autonomy comes responsibility, and we'll want to talk a little bit about that too today. When these AI agents start making decisions, governance and accountability becomes, key, essential to that equation. So we think about it as this policy-first autonomy, where trust, where ethics, control, all of that is embedded in the system from the start. And the reason, of course, that this matters now is because the technology is really starting to mature, starting to see more use cases, more adoption, reasoning engines, orchestration layers, memory systems. All of those enabling technologies are ready for scale. And we're starting again, like I said, to see those early applications where AI agents are beginning to coordinate tasks end to end. So let's talk a little bit first about that shift from automation to autonomy. As we've noted over the last decade, automation has really become the backbone for many enterprises to sort of streamlining processes, improving efficiency, a real source of productivity growth. But now we've reached this turning point where AI systems are doing more than just following instructions. They're just kind of think more in context, take initiative, as noted, and it is that agentic AI that's marking this evolution from automation to autonomy. So I want to ask you, Niraj, how do you define agentic AI in the enterprise context specifically? And how would you say it's fundamentally different from traditional automation or rules-based AI systems?
Sure, Jillian. So it's a fantastic topic, and the way we started to see enterprise, started to use AI, and obviously it all started from the generative AI perspective. People started to use ChatGPT, Gemini, and all that kind of stuff, and slowly they started to use AI for enterprise use cases, like business use cases, and they are very very different than just doing the personal work, or kind of generating, making use of some generative feature of it. And the way it is different is, to solve a business problem, you require multiple steps processing, multiple step referencing different set of data sets, and producing some kind of outcome. And agentic AI has played a big role. Before agentic AI, people solve this problem with simple workflow automation, right? You can think like putting a pipe which has 6 steps defined. Every step defines what needs to be done, and if there is a check, go this route, or if that doesn't work, then go this route, right? That's the rule based automation that people have developed, and it worked really well since 2 to 3 decades now, right? But what enterprise started to look for is, can it be far more intelligent than what it is now? And that's where agentic AI came into the play, where it makes use of AI, which can do the reasoning, planning, and act autonomously, so that I can solve a business problem really with intelligence. And that's where the traditional automation is really different, because it is executing the predefined steps which you have expressed as a rule engine. Maybe that's the very old implementation, but today all of these implementations of agentic AI that we started to do is very autonomous. They have ability to solve the problem of their own, and then they orchestrate different agents, and those different agents work in a very cohesive way to solve different problems, and then aggregate all of that response back to the user. So in a very simple term, while traditional automation executes the predefined steps, agentic AI adapts, decides, and continuously improves, making it outcome driven than just go rule driven. So that's where it is different. And as we explained, that by implementing this nature of agentic AI, we are able to solve really very complex problems which enterprise were using, like BPM type of software, where it has a workflow of business processes and integrates it together, which we are able to solve using agentic AI. And very very fantastic implementations that we have done as of now. It is growing very fast at a very fast pace, and we started to see a lot of benefit.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Neeraj, there. So, what's really exciting is how we are redefining intelligence itself inside the enterprise. So, for years, automation was about scale and efficiency, but agentic AI is about intent and initiative. So, it's not just executing the commands, it's understanding goals, adapting in real life, and even replanning based on the outcomes. And what's
Yes.
fascinating is how quickly enterprises are starting to recognize that difference. Which brings me to the next point, that this transition, it didn't happen overnight. So we are hearing a lot about new AI capabilities that go beyond pattern recognitions, things like reasoning, planning, and even persistent memory. So, in your view, what breakthroughs in areas like reasoning, memory, or orchestration are enabling this transition from automation to autonomy?
Yeah, definitely. And trust me, it has taken a lot to reach to this level. And it's growing, as I mentioned before, it's growing at a very fast pace. If you really look at these three, you know, angles, like agents, if you look at from reasoning angle or memory or orchestration angle, just putting a light on the reasoning side, it's a shift from rule-based logic to the advanced adaptive reasoning. Basically, it is having an ability to solve a region. It's a problem, like mathematical problem or any type of calculations. Intelligently, it can solve without you feeding how to solve this problem. So it can think, right? So that's one. Second is model can plan your multi-step tasks because, as I mentioned before, if you look at a BPM process for a large enterprise, because my experience has been more into the large enterprises side, if you really look at a problem of supply chain intelligence, supply chain optimization, right? It is not just one problem wherein you just put a request and you got a response. This is how you can optimize your supply chain, right? So the workflow of optimization has multiple steps involved into it. Now who can orchestrate at uh, every steps, and every steps has requires a different intelligence, different planning, right? And if it is like a 10 step process of supply chain intelligence, then starts with step one, wherein you do a better reasoning, better planning, and give that step output to the second step to perform something, a kind of a workflow. Now between these two steps, what is very important to let the engine remember the context of where I came from, right? And that particular context came from the memory management, because within a session, or you can think like a persistent long-term memory that gives agent context over the time is very, very important. And that's where memory management is very, very important. If you really look back 2 years ago, there are a lot of limitations on, if you ask one question and if you immediately started to ask a second question, it was forgetting the context of the previous question, right? So you had to kind of again and again put that context so that you will get an aligned answer for to it. Now that's not the problem. Because of the agentic AI memory management, we are able to keep the context live in a session, and then accordingly you will get the inferences, intelligence, everything that requires to solve that particular problem started to get aligned. Caching played a very important role, because caching mechanism also stores memory in the state agent, and that's very, very important, because if you are performing multi-step processes, it requires context to be live, and get the learnings from there. There are a lot of reinforcement learning mechanism that we started to implement, wherein based on the feedback from the user, which is happening in the session, it started to push back, and models started to learn, so that next time it will be more intelligent. So those are the benefit that memory brings. Now the third point that you touched upon is orchestration. So orchestration is a very important feature, because to solve an enterprise problem, uh, it needs to one needs to interact with multiple tools, different data sets. Data sets are also stored at different databases or different systems, API integrations, etc. So agent call tools, APIs, data products, and all other actors which is involved to solve that particular workflow is very, very important. And today uh, agents are far more intelligent than it was like last year. The production implementations that we have done, that it is able to autonomously decide which tool to call, what is the input that should go, what is the outcome that I need to produce, and do I need to merge this all into one and produce the final outcome which user desire to have. Fantastic progression that I have seen in last 2 years, wherein all these three quadrants of reasoning, memory, and orchestration has played a complete picture of agentic nature, so that we are solving the problems in a very autonomous way. And day by day, it started to get more intelligent as and when the training from model side, agent side, context building side. These are the areas which is very, very important. One of the things that Onix has done very differently in this area is uh, how do you provide the rich context to the agents, so that agents can behave intelligent, right? Because the problem started to become more complex, because business users now have time to spend into strategy and intelligence than doing a data processing and coding, right? So now they started to ask very right questions and very complex questions, and that requires a pre-building context of your data sets. Business runs on the data. Intelligence, for intelligence, data is the fuel, right? So but AI doesn't really understand your enterprise data sets or data model, so it requires the context. That is something that we have developed a very unique engine in our Wingspan platform, called context engine, that generates the context for your data sets, and that is required to make your agentic flow, AI flow, generative flow, and in a traditional world we were calling this ML functions, ML flow, etc. Very, very intelligent, and it works across all the data sets. And I'm seeing the benefit of enterprises adoption of AI is fantastic.
That's fascinating. And even I think that with the evolution of lifelong memory, the memory part will be augmented, multifolds. It will create a new paradigm shift for these agents. Uh,
Yeah.
and it feels like enterprises, they are already starting to experiment with this autonomy in small ways. So how are enterprises beginning to operationalize these shift? Are there early examples where agentic behavior is already visible in the production?
Sure. So we started to see the changes, and basically this year of agentic implementation, shifts started to happen in stages. I think at the beginning, Zillian, you mentioned that it was not like over the night journey, right? I mean, there a lot of effort has gone to make this possible, and as community we have came here. So shifts started to happen in stages, from automation workflow to partial, autonomous systems, which is more like a goal driven. If you look at a very traditional programming approach, wherein we do start solving the problem step by step, wherein the problem solving technique in agentic approach is very different. It is very much goal driven. You tell me what do you want to achieve first, and then starts to lay out the complete planning, which data sets are required, where to get this data from. And we just spoke about the orchestration engine, memory management, and reasoning, like the planning perspective, right? So shift started to happen, but it is happening in stages. The second thing is, from early on, I started to see wherein enterprises start with a very high volume, rules heavy processes. So there are few companies wherein they started to use agentic AI or try agentic AI with their own use cases, and the use cases that they are selecting, which is a good representative, to test agentic AI, whether it is useful, or if it is useful, then how much is the impact. Two parameters I'm seeing very evident. One is the high volume and rule heavy processes, uh, and let agent run the part of the workflow end to end. Like you provide these two things, and let agent run and complete your entire business processes. So agentic behavior and outcomes are already visible, and they are very, very visible in support centers, IT operations, compliance checks, logistics, supply chain adjustments. They are the areas wherein I started to see a lot of implementation of agentic AI, and there we started to see a lot of benefits. Creative functions are little, that requires a lot of different technique to solve and become more intelligent. But from shift perspective, one major shift that I started to see is industry moving from horizontal solutions to verticalized solutions. Meaning is instead of horizontal LLM, they started to get into the very focused of the domain-oriented systems and started to solve the problems using the domain-specific agents, domain-specific LLMs for that matter. And from our implementation perspective, I can share few experiences that using a very global generic language model, foundation model versus implementing a domain specific language model, the accuracy is much higher, and ability for agents to understand the problem and define the plan, do the reasoning, and execute that workflow it's a fantastic difference. It's a shift, right? So that's the one major shift that started to see from global model to the domain specific model. And a lot of things that you started to see from the edge devices perspective, wherein people will go from SLM, like small language model, so that I can decrease the size of the model and it can fit on the edge devices side, so that the intelligence can happen there, and then later on it can feed the data back, right? And then the entire process will again retrain, etc., etc. So these are the shifts that we started to see. And as I mentioned before, the early on support centers, IT, data operations, compliance checks, a lot of logistics, retailers started to use all of these workflow in their business processes.
That's such a great point. I think even we are using verticalized version of LLM for our own research, and we're already reaping huge benefits out of it.
Yeah.
What we are also seeing is a lot of experimentation at the edge of autonomy. For example, in IT operations, we now have agents that identify incidents, they trigger fixes, and close the tickets without human intervention. We also spoke with a lot of marketing folks, and there also agents are running and optimizing campaigns in real time. So the early use cases are small, but they are self-contained, and they are setting the foundation for what's next. That is what I think, which actually leads to an important question. Do you see this autonomy spreading one use case at a time or transforming enterprises architecture altogether? As in, do you see this autonomy evolving gradually across specific use cases, or will it eventually redefine the enterprise architecture as a whole?
Yeah, fantastic question. Very interesting. So I'll tell you my experience into this, and autonomy will emerge gradually across use cases. So for now, people are very much focused on the use cases, and that's a good start, right? And then the way I started to envision is it will emerge gradually in a fabric, uh, fast forward. One other thing that personally I did not like the way enterprises started to use agentic AI is the very first thing that came into the mind for technical team. Why? I mean, it's a workflow. It can orchestrate things. Why can't I use agentic AI to replace my microservices? Right. So you have a lot of APIs call in a sequence: input, output, request, response services, etc., etc. Uh, why don't we replace that with agentic AI? Not a very good use case. Can it solve? Yes, it can solve this problem. But where is the intelligence? Right? The industry started from that point, and slowly they started to realize the power of AI, and power of maturity, the way it started to solve the problem and do the reasoning. And this is why I was telling that autonomy will emerge. And the second point that I wanted to focus is it requires integration of the data fabric and AI layer. So maybe you can solve one problem in isolation by bringing few data sets together, right? But actually it requires an integration of different data sets using API policies. Policies are very, very important. Seamless access to the data. And we do see clients starting with AI driven workflow, evolving towards platform level autonomy with our own platform, which is Wingspan, that we have developed, and Google Cloud. Most of our customers use Wingspan for on-premise as well as for, because data set is stored across the systems. Some of those data sets are onto Google Cloud or any other cloud, and some of them are still there onto on-premise, and Wingspan is able to take care of those AI-driven workflows very seamlessly with the policies and seamless access. So these are the specific use cases. And from enterprise architecture standpoint, my response to that is, it will emerge after doing multiple use cases. You figure out how the policy is going to augment, how the data, where the data set is going to come, put a proper governance, and then it will influence the enterprise architecture. So yes, it will evolve there, but are we there today? That's the problem that we started to see early on, even the last year, and Wingspan is the answer to that. I think you guys know about Wingspan already, but Wingspan provides governance, brings right context so that you can make AI more intelligent, and it also gives you a platform wherein you can start gradually by solving small use cases and finally emerge it to address to the enterprise architecture, influence on AI enterprise architecture, and solve a bigger problem for the enterprise. And customers love it today.
Naresh, I want to move to another topic, which I think is another kind of hot button topic or issue topic, and that is around human AI collaboration. And again, our understanding here is that the real value lies in how these agents or agentic AI complements human talent, especially by taking over, again, those repetitive and then very context-heavy workflows. So what does, in your opinion, meaningful human AI collaboration look like in an agentic enterprise?
Perfect. In fact, this has been the topic for a lot of large enterprises. How do I augment AI in an enterprise, right? And after doing a lot of implementation, solving a lot of complex use cases, I think human in the loop is the key, right? And the way you can think, just to simplify this complete equation of AI, machine solving a problem, humans are there augmenting both of them together to solve and give benefit to the enterprise. You can think like human sets the goal, right? They will set the goal and the constraints, and agents handle the execution part of it. So goal setting activity, as I mentioned before, agents will start from the goal-driven architecture, not the rule-driven architecture, right? From the traditional agents automation perspective. So human will set the goal and agents handle the execution and optimization. Human actually focus on judgment, creativity, and relationships. Agents handle the repetitive, cross-system, multi-step work. Right. This is where the things gets very well organized. If AI focus more on the repetitive task of it, bring more intelligence there, and human focus on the judgment part of it and creative part of it. In one of the discussion, I was talking in a different forum, and one of the way I explain this difference is there are two type of ways to solve a problem. One is IQ and another is EQ. IQ is a really perfect fit for AI to get into, while the emotional intelligence and quotient is something that if you keep it with humans, they'll be far better. And if you augment these two, that's the real value that you will see, right? So ultimately, we are working for in industry or in the world, we are working for creating better business or better society, right? And in all of these, humans are involved. So better augment AI with humans, let humans set the goal, let AI follow those instructions and execute those instructions, solve the problem. And agentic AI becomes a partner for reasoning with real-time insights, hypothesis or recommendations, because they are kind of a repetitive task, right? They are kind of equation. It's a kind of a math that can be solved, but how do you equate the emotions, right? And that's the hard part of the puzzle, and that's the place where human and machine, and here I'm referring to the agentic AI part of it, augments really well and complements really well to solve and give the complete picture to the enterprise.
Thanks, Neeraj. I think this is a very powerful perspective. What I also feel is like this sort of human AI collaboration involving the agentic part of it is not just about automation, right? It's also about shared intent and adaptive trust. So what we are, as you mentioned, right? It's more of humans instead of using AI. It's becoming more of humans partnering with AI so that they collectively learn, decide, and create together. So what I also feel is it's less about efficiency and more about organizations expanding themselves to work collectively. So that actually moves me to the next question. As this sort of collaboration deepens, we are seeing it to impact different parts of the enterprise, right? Starting from operations to innovation. So where do you think the biggest productivity or innovation gains will emerge in terms of knowledge, work, operations, or creative functions? What are your thoughts about that?
Sure. So I think the largest gain that we are seeing in the market is into knowledge work and operations. Creative functions will emerge. It will take some time, right? I'm not saying it's not there, but it will take some time. Now, from operations standpoint, the kind of problems and the target goals for from enterprise perspective or tech perspective that we have taken is a faster resolution or few errors, or proactive remediation if you see a problem in the workflow, right? Those are the operations problem that somebody will target to achieve from agentic AI perspective. Imagine an operations team. Yesterday he was solving 100 problems with say 4 people, and with agentic AI implementation they're able to solve 1,000 problems with 1 people or 2 people. Like, look at the benefit of implementing, and that's a knowledge work, right? In a way. So but specifically if you look at knowledge industry perspective, which covers and has got a lot of benefit, is the research that has impacted a lot from agentic AI perspective. Reporting, compliance, they are the areas wherein people are taking a lot more benefit and has been more productive and innovative in nature. Creative functions, you can think rapid ideation or addressions, because many a times you will see people come back with the idea, and they do a deep research, and they keep on prompting, getting kind of refining that output to get to what they wanted. uh, I qualify those kind of research as a knowledge, sorry, as a creative function, right? And agentic AI collapses the cycle time. If you look at the completion time, and removes the friction across all these three, by the way, because it doesn't really differentiate one versus other, because it has reasoning, it can plan, and it can orchestrate multiple things. It is helping all these three functions. But from adoption perspective, if you look at the first two that I need, I will certainly call it out, is the knowledge work and operations are the one which wherein I can see more traction.
Right, right. So I totally agree, and it's very interesting to know the opportunity space is actually growing, right? And as you mentioned, in terms of the knowledge work, when we use AI agents to handle research or providing recommendations, it is actually cutting down the cycle by half, and that by itself is leading to improved efficiency, right?
Correct.
So we see as this sort of collaboration, the human AI collaboration is increasingly leading to compounded productivity. But what we see, the challenge is more about measuring that value. I think that's going to be the next challenge when we see this sort of collaboration. So what I feel is like beyond productivity. So the measuring this sort of value impact becomes very tricky, and especially when AI is actually working together along with humans rather than replacing them. So how do you think organizations are measuring this ROI in this sort of collaboration by beyond simple automation metrics? What are your perspectives?
Right. So from ROI perspective, if you look at ROI evolved from automation metrics to a lot of different dimensions. and those dimensions are like decision velocity. How fast can you make the decision, right? It's not only about automation, like how much can you automate, but how faster can you implement your decisions into business is what matters. And we started to evaluate the models and the solutions with respect to that. Adaptability is also one of the metrics that I would suggest. It's very, very important. And throughput. So and throughput is not in terms of how fast and how productive you are, in terms of innovation. Because suppose if there were five innovative areas that you are able to take care in a given time, now you are far more intelligent, and you are able to do more innovative functions, such as like campaigns, such as marketing planning, customer segmentations, optimization, so all recommendations even in that area. Now, the other part which I can think and has been a great help for one of our customer from our company perspective, one of the index which is very, very important is human AI synergy index. Like we just spoke about, how do you augment AI with human and solve the complete problem, give better experience. So the human AI synergy index measures faster insights, fewer errors, and improved experience holistically to the enterprise, because humans are involved everywhere. I mean, we are the one who has been acting so far before AI came. I mean, the agents came into the play, right? And now it is going to transform from bot to humanoids, and there is a series of all the roadmaps in front of us. But that's a good index to track. The other ROI that I can think of is cultural ROI. And cultural ROI meaning is employee empowerment and the time freed for high value tasks. So imagine you have 10 employees, where they're like a high performer, but they are doing a commodity job. And if you save your time by automating repetitive work by AI, then they will start spending more and more time in doing some meaningful work, which is maybe a new revenue generating use cases, right? So I would say this as a cultural ROI, because you are shifting the culture from from human perspective, the way it needs to get implemented. And truly speaking, the new ROI revolves around speed, quality, and adaptability. So that's very, very important. And in summary, I would say, data to decision, accuracy to of adoption, multiple retraining that you have to do, or customer satisfaction improvements are the areas that related areas and the use cases that you will see most of these agentic AI started to revolve and actually give much more benefit to the enterprise. So these are the KPIs and ROIs perspective that you can see more benefit. And it is not because of automation, it's completely different shift of measuring the benefit of AI, agentic AI.
Very interesting. So moving from traditional ROI measures, which is just based on cost and speed, we are talking about decision velocity, cultural ROI, quality, speed, and adaptability. I think these are very interesting metrics. So what I see is like the value becomes more prominent when teams start using these systems, so that they can see the human side of the transformation, right? So that actually moves me to the next question. So from a change management perspective, how can leaders actually help teams in terms of trust, adopt, and co-evolve using agentic systems rather than showing some sort of resistance? So what are your thoughts on that?
It's a fantastic question, because everybody started to experiment different methods to implement and socialize AI. One of the most powerful technique and the start point that I have seen in my experience and seeing in enterprises are start with augmentation, not automation. It's very, very important to understand. Augment your AI and demonstrate the removal of grunt work. So if your team is busy doing very mundane work, repetitive in nature, or less worth work, I think there is a huge opportunity to give it to agentic AI. Let them solve that problem there. So that's where I'm saying, do not start from automation perspective, but start with augmentation method. You augment human with AI. and provide them transparency from team perspective. Provide them transparency into how agent work to build the trust. This is very, very important, because unless it is it's a transparent to the consumers or the actors, nobody is going to believe, and and your adoption will suffer, right? So as a leader, I think transparency is very important to provide. And other thing is create early shared wins, and for the quick productivity and accurate gains. I think we need to identify out of the 100 use cases, where are the early wins use cases. Do that so that people will realize that there's a low hanging fruit, there's a value there, right? It's a value use cases. And once they build the trust, as I mentioned before in the previous point, they will start adopting it, and that's where the adoption comes in. Unless people see it successfully getting implemented, start with small use cases, see the benefit of it, and then you slowly scale from there. And to our previous point, immerse this as an enterprise AI architecture, from just doing agentic AI one use case, two use case, immerse it slowly to the enterprise architecture. That's the way I could see management should take that. Another point that's coming in my mind is invest in upskilling. And upskilling is very, very important, because things are changing every day. Every day you are seeing multiple technologies came in, and one replaces other. There are more advanced technologies. Industry is moving towards AGI, and then there is a super intelligence coming into the play. We all are working very hard to make our roadmap successful, and really gain value from enterprise implementation perspective. So here, upscaling your team so that team can manage and collaborate with agents are very, very important. You train your people, invest there, so that they will learn how to make work with how to work with agents, or make agent working like in a very cohesive way. So that's my point of view from my experience. I would say, looking at really large, this is how management will approach.
Naresh,
Interesting.
so we've been, sorry, Kasturi, but just to kind of probe a little bit more around adoption here, can we talk a little bit about responsible adoption more fully? So, we noted earlier that when AI systems become more autonomous, governance and control has to really take center stage. It becomes kind of the situation where it's no longer just about can AI do it, but more about what should it do and when should it do it, and how. So when those agents do start accessing systems or making decisions or doing things like influencing outcomes, enterprises really have to have these very clear policies, accountability frameworks to better control what those AI agents do. And that challenge really is about how do you scale, as you were talking about, scaling use cases. How do you scale responsibly without slowing that innovation down or transformation down? So, as enterprises deploy more of these autonomous AI agents, what are the principles of governance or architecture that you think really have to be embedded from the start?
Yeah, so it's a fantastic question, because starting is very, very important. Otherwise, I have seen a lot of AI use cases actually or POC has not been successful since last 2 years or 3 years. So from architecture perspective, I would say you follow certain basic principles. And it's not that it's new, but something which is very, very important. It becomes very important in case of agentic AI, like policy first architecture. So policy first architecture meaning is in context of data access, risk, approvals, and privacy built into the agentic fabric that you are going to implement, or your team is going to access. It's very, very important. So you start your architecture with looking at the policy. You can't really ignore it. That's the first thing that we should do, and especially when you are exposing data to the AI or agentic side of it. The second thing is transparent autonomy with explainability. That's very, very important. Like explainability says, like, if certain things happens, then why it happened in that way. Explain the result, right? So there you should have a transparency, because users ask questions, you got the response. But if users are not able to see how come AI agents has produced that outcome? That becomes a question. So like it has to be explainable. It should log everything, like whatever activities that agent has done should go through a proper logging, and all the actions has to be really logged in so that auditors can audit it. The third perspective that I would like to bring to notice is the guardrails oriented execution. So guardrails are very, very important, and you make sure that you're putting those guardrails using, and there are multiple methods. You can use sandbox, or you can use like a reversible environment wherein you try something, it didn't work, then you go back, and then you can reverse things. And obviously with human in the loop, like you can implement human checkpoints, and you train the model, and then you once you're comfortable, then you can socialize that, right? You can have a modular orchestration layer managing tools, workflow, memory very safely, and that you can actually have a separate layer. That's the modular architecture that we call it as. So that you can decouple the orchestration part of it versus the one which accesses the data, right? So these are two layers on the top. And interestingly, these are the features which is actually concerning to the large enterprises before they go scale AI. And to solve this particular problem, this is why we Onix, we took a very different approach to come back with a platform approach, so that all of these things that we just spoke about from architecture stand, you can't really have this guiding principle use case by use case, right? You should have a platform which actually enables you and make sure that you're following these guiding principles, and then you are developing this use case. That's exactly what Wingspan solves. So it's very, very important, and I'm glad that you asked this question, because these are the building blocks from security and trust perspective.
Absolutely, absolutely, Neeraj. So governance, it really can't be something that we think about later. It has to be built right from the start. So enterprises, they don't need heavy-handed restrictions, as you said. They need guardrails and not gated kind of system. That means setting up frameworks that let AI agents operate with freedom, but still within clear boundaries of compliance, ethics, and consistency. What we are seeing now is the rise of what I'd call policy first AI systems that come preloaded with an organization's value and constraints baked into the architecture. And honestly, that's a big mindset shift that we are seeing. I think it's about designing trust into the system itself, and I think that's what will separate the early adopters from the true responsible leaders in this space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And very important point that just wanted to bring a very important point which came in my mind is, industry is very, very concerned and has been a concerning topic for AI. AI is hallucinating. Like, I mean, it has been a very popular topic, and people say like, what about it? It works today, but all of a sudden it didn't work tomorrow, or it may not work tomorrow, right? And we have seen those cases. So hallucination is, and I always tell this, hallucination is not a problem per se, right? But you should put a proper guardrail. You should ground your model so that it should not hallucinate. Because think about, if AI will not give you a variety of answers, it will not be as interesting. AI will not be as interesting as we see today. It will become like a very monotonous request response service. And actually less hallucination, or maybe a variety itself, made AI interesting. So if you completely guard it, the charm will go away. I think you got what I mean, right? So it's very, very important that you maintain a good balance from governance perspective. How much do you really need, and how much intelligence do you want in AI? And one should take care from governance, from accuracy perspective, grounding perspective, guardrails perspective, put proper policies so that it will form a boundary, as you said rightly.
Right. So I think hallucinations are good for now.
I mean, to me, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So security and compliance, they are becoming critical, especially when agents start acting across multiple enterprise systems. So how can organizations ensure data security and policy compliance when AI agents begin making decisions or accessing multiple systems?
So in this, the most important thing that comes is policy, policy governed access, and as we know, RBAC, ABAC, or list privilege principle, zero access policies. So all of that comes into the play. Secure tools and system calls through governed APIs. This is very, very important, because what happens in agentic AI, you have tools and connectors. Orchestrator just go and makes use of that tool, calls it, provide the data, get the response. But if it is not secure, then it may create concerns for the enterprise, right? So secure tools and system calls through governed APIs with rate limit, or you can put a validation layer on top of it, or you can also, in certain cases, we are able to put a approval threshold workflow. Like, if it sees a different pattern, then it goes through a specific approval before it actually provides the response to the user, right? So that's very, very important. And full visibility and traceability is very, very important. Decisions are logged, has a rational input, output, identity, so that compliance team can audit at any point in time, and they should have visibility end to end. So that's very, very important, before you make these decisions of implementing for the multiple systems.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. And looking forward ahead, scaling responsibility is key, like moving from pilots to enterprise-wide agentic ecosystems. So looking ahead, how do you envision enterprises scaling agentic AI responsibly from pilot projects to full-blown cross-enterprise ecosystems?
Sure. So I think we did discuss about uh, start small, start with a high value, higher data set, like wherein you'll find a lot of data sets so that you can test the scale. Once you prove that as an POC, you can do the pilot and then go from there. The point that I'm trying to say is start with the governed pilots with the high value use cases. That's the good starting point for enterprise. The second is build a very good shared foundation, which has a trust layer attached to it, and secure data access, lineage, policy enforcements, orchestration, and evolve into cross enterprise ecosystems of agent, from operations, finance, risk, supply chain, CRM, all that perspective. And one of the good example that I can quote: if you have an operations team solving a problem, call may go to Salesforce, call may go to Jira, call may go to multiple places, right? And so security is very, very important, and scalability is very, very important, because now it is not only getting the data from them, but how much data are you getting? Are you able to scale those calls? And is your data as well as the decisions trusted, right? And how do you actually build a trusted layer on top of it? It's very, very important. And most of the enterprise that you see today where they are struggling is to build the context. And context meaning is, do I have a complete lineage where the data got produced, and at which all hops that it has followed, and what's the target where it is going, and who all are the consumers. If you have this complete information, you can build the right context, and then you can have a central monitoring, auditability, and continuous learning loops, because reinforcement learning will keep on coming based on the user feedback and then mature the model. So these are the basic foundation, which I call this as shared foundation trust one should build to scale the solutions and the use cases that you started to do in agentic AI era. That is very, very important, and this will evolve. I'm not saying from day one perspective you will have it. You will have learnings, and every enterprises are different. Their maturity is different. Their governance, which is old style data governance, that maturity is also different. So it depends your start point. Start point for every enterprise is not the same. Like, from tomorrow I can start with AI. Because of the current state where they are different in governance and scalability angle, it depends on how they are putting their ecosystem into the place. But these are the main pointers which I would say it's very, very important to make your AI scalable and one to have it.
Yeah. And while we're talking on kind of on the subject matter of, governance, ethics, and things along those lines, I just want to note that our viewers are welcome to download a copy of some research that we here at Everest Group have completed on shifting from compliance to core logic with AI ethics. You should see a QR code. Feel free to scan that and take advantage of that free research. Just moving on, just keeping cognizant of time, I think we just have a couple of closing questions, Niraj. So just taking it back a higher level, why is now the right moment for enterprises to start experimenting with or investing in agentic AI?
Fantastic. So now is the time. So, and there are a lot of reasons, right? One very important reason is the maturity of AI, the inflection point in AI. It's now, right? So foundation models have evolved. They are able to do the reasoning. They're able to do the planning. They're able to take action. All of these capabilities are matured now, right? The second point that I would say is very, very important is a cloud native ecosystem like Google. For example, it has given Vertex AI, Agentic framework, make the development really, really easy. And it's not just smarter, but more scalable. And scalability was the previous question. If you really use these mature systems, the solutions are scalable already because this has been taken care by the platform itself, right? The third point, which is very, very important and makes it very, very easy, the stack is ready with stronger models. Look at the models and their maturity that we have come along, right? It's like n number of models. I don't know, I don't have counts in hand, the number of models that is available, but really, really strong, competition. And every day I'm seeing, sometimes model A performing really well, and then the next release of model B performing better than A, right? So that competition actually made it very, interesting time, and the industry is taking advantage of it. It's a good thing. What was not possible 18 months ago is now safe, practical, and more importantly, it is cost efficient. So cost is also a very important factor because the costing model of AI has been very challenging for enterprise, number of tokens and whatnot. So nowadays, costing model has been evolved and it has become really practical and people are able to make use of it. Early movers gain compounding advantage because if I'm not doing it and if my competitors are doing it, that's also a challenge. I don't know the compounding advantage if I'll be able to take in productivity and speed. So these are the important points which I would say enterprise to think, and I encourage enterprise to make use of this now because this is the right time to implement and scale.
Okay.
So just, go ahead, Kasturi, please.
So I think the timing point actually resonates very well, where we are seeing the inflection point moment in terms of technology maturity or enterprise data readiness and cultural openness aligning to create the structural shift, right, in terms of how decisions, creativity, and accountability is distributed across the organizations. So who do you think, having said that, who do you think would be the early beneficiaries and why?
So my as per my experience, I can see the really early beneficiaries, the industry, as I explained before, high volume decisions, wherein if you are engaged with a lot of data sets and repetitive workflow. These are the industries. If they are having, they are good industry to implement and take advantage of it. Customer experience and services are also evolving, and you can think like Google service like CCAI, for example. CCAI based autonomous assistant. If you make a call to call center, your calls are being received by agents and being responded, being done. Or if there is a human sitting in the middle, they are getting a lot of intelligence from the agent so that they can respond back to the users. So customer experience and services are evolving a lot. Data modernization and cloud ops are being transformed with agentic AI because early on, our company has been more has gained a lot of experience in data modernization and migration activity to the cloud, right? And now, if I really look back with agents and the Wingspan platform that we have developed, we are able to really take the very complex problems like consolidating two different platforms into one, like building a unified data platform, right? That's a big challenge. It was never ever possible before. It was a gigantic project in past. Now it has been a normal project for all of us, right? And especially those intelligence we have already baked in into a Wingspan platform. Knowledge work and compliance in healthcare, BFSI, I can see government benefits from continuous monitoring and optimizations. They are the good use cases for them. So these are the main beneficiaries and areas that you can see, agentic AI is becoming so popular.
Thanks. Just one quick question. So, whoever is listening today, right, in terms of CIOs or CTOs, what is the first step that they need to take in terms of their agentic AI journey? What are your thoughts about that?
So my suggestion is pick one high volume, rules
Mm.
heavy workflow. That's the good start point, and deploy a governed agent. That's the basic thing that one should do to begin with. Start small, measure impact, build trust, scale based on the real wins. You see the benefit. You actually bring the alignment with the ecosystem, your own enterprise, and then get some learnings and then prove some real wins so that you will also build socialize within your team and then go from there. Start with measurable content use cases like customer operations or cloud monitoring, like take from tech side of it, and some of those small use cases you can take it from the business side as well. Being an executive, you can make those decisions and build governance from day one. That's the big learning that we have got,
Mhm.
right? So for all CTOs, CIOs, my suggestion, and me being CTO since long now, I'm seeing a lot of failures because of not having proper governance, right? So build governance from day one, using responsible autonomy by design. So it's very very important.
Okay.
So I'm just looking at the time here, and I think we do need to close. But this has been such a great discussion. Naresh, thank you so much for joining us. Kasturi, Himanshu, also thank you for bringing your insights. And we look forward to seeing everyone again on our next LinkedIn Live. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thank
Have a
you.
good